Hey everyone, it's Richard Solomon again. I thought I would beat the iron while it's hot. For those of you who don't know that phrase, it simply means get it while the getting is good. If things are working out, push on, do more. So I thought I'd beat the iron while it's hot and do another installment in these PhD Chronicles. As I'm speaking, uploading number 10, which is in 2 parts. So that's been uploaded right now to YouTube. And I thought I'd do another one. This one should be pretty much shorter than the last in these PhD Chronicles. Finding your topic. This is critical, or your area of research, but more so your topic. This is super, super important for all kinds of reasons. Let me go through. So remember, I'll keep saying this, I've said it many times, when you do doctoral studies, you have to add to the body of literature. So you are essentially researching something that no one else has ever before researched. Now, that might sound like, wow, where do I find something like that? But let me break it apart. So, and if I've said this before, please forgive me. But as you'd appreciate, this is going over a long period of time, these many videos. So, new work might be old methods, new data. Or old data, new methods. Yeah? It might be you are using old data, old methods, but new findings. So new is not that the area of research is new, because it's unlikely that you'll discover something that has never been done before. That happens, obviously, but you are looking for that niche, or as my friends north of me, North America would say, that niche, where no one has actually gone in and done that bit of work before. So let me recap. It might be new methods, new data, new findings. Any one of those news that is existing in that situation makes it new work. So for example, I am looking at work ethic and behavioral styles within the workforce of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I could have simply done work ethic within the workforce of Trinidad and Tobago. No one has done that work in the entire labor force. Yeah? A representative sample of the entire labor force. I could have done personality or behavioral styles in the labor force of Trinidad and Tobago. No one has done that either. But I'm looking at a relationship, so correlational type study, if you want, between these two constructs, taking personality as the independent variable, because people's personality, well, it's their personality, you can't change that, and the work ethic as the dependent variable. So that's the one that can shift, And I have a whole long list of hypotheses. It's not that long, maybe about 6, 8 hypotheses, I can't remember. I'll probably do another video on hypotheses and how do you come up with them and so on at some point in time. So yeah, you have to find new. So as I said, it might be new method, new findings, new data. Yeah, any one of those. To complete my example, my data is going to be new. My methods, in other words, how I investigate, methodology, is not going to be new. I will most probably use instruments that have already been developed, and that's completely fine. But my data is new because I'm gathering it from a population where that exact data or those data sets have not been gathered before. Yeah? So any one of those will, by definition, make your work new. And if you think about that, there are endless options. So for example, I can just think. If I'm interested in work ethic, let's just take that. And in my last video, I did refer to Dr. Paula Thomas, who did a study on work ethic among generational cohorts within a particular organization in Trinidad and Tobago. So she has studied work ethic in that organization, which will give you a completely different data set. Yes? But I could say I'd like to study work ethic in the public sector of Trinidad and Tobago, which will be a completely different data set. So, and I may use methods that other people, Wuhan, Mariak, and others would have developed, but I am actually doing new work. Yeah? So that clarifies that. It has to be new. So that's one. It has to be new work. Original work. Choosing a topic. You have to choose something that you have some knowledge about. So usually, and I can't say never, but I'll say usually, people don't choose topics that they don't know anything about. That would be odd. Because remember, usually you are specializing. Think of it this way. You do a bachelor's degree, and depending on the type, it may be fairly broad. And then you do a master's degree, which depending on the type, it can be fairly broad, but more so specialized or narrowed in than a bachelor's. And you do a PhD, which is definitely very narrow. You become the global expert on that thing, that narrow area. And I say global because it's new. New is not for your country only. It's new. No one has studied that thing. Yeah? So it's new. You have some information about it. And I should clarify, you don't need a master's degree to do a bachelor's in some countries. It depends on the university or the college. Colleges are different, but in many cases, you don't need a master's degree. You can start a PhD or other kind of doctorate using your, or gain entry using your bachelor's degree. In my case, I did have a master's degree, or I do have a master's degree that I use as one of the entry requirements. And for the University of Trinidad and Tobago, if I remember correctly, it is a requirement. In this part of the world, it tends to be, yeah? So you're not coming into this brand new without any knowledge. You're coming into this with some information about the areas, yeah? So having had some information, you identify something that you would like to study. You are making up your own study, essentially, which is kind of cool if you think about it. It must be something, or it should be something that would add value, real value, to maybe your practice. So as a consultant, I do a lot of work with organizations, helping them to be more productive, to be more efficient, more effective. As you would appreciate, work ethic and behavioral styles figure greatly into those. Yeah? So obviously, these are areas that I'm interested in. I have worked with and used behavioral style assessments for the last decade and a half, varying kinds, and personality type assessments, and I'm certified to use those. So I'm not coming into this with no information. I have some information that I bring into this that I go, okay, this may be something that is useful, one, to my practice, two, to my clients, and three, to the world. In this case, I'm focusing on Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm trying to, I dare say, solve a problem. I recognize that there is a challenge with work ethic in this country, and that's a real challenge. If you look at World Economic Forum reports from 2000 and I think about 7 till 2017, work ethic in the national labor force figures as the #1 challenge or the #1 problem for doing business. So that's a real problem. Yeah, and the World Economic Forum puts out the Global Competitiveness Index. It's a report, an annual report, and it's a pretty big document. I think as many as 150 countries are listed in there. So with that knowledge, I was able to say, is this something? Now, prior to that, I knew from my own experience of working with companies and within the public sector of Trinidad and Tobago as a consultant that we had a particular challenge. But that's what you want to do. You want to help solve a problem, you want to fix something, you want to make it better, you want to figure it out. You want to figure out, why is this so? And maybe, what can we do differently? Yeah? So, solve a problem maybe for you, for your client, for the world, make the world a better place. You know, if you look at, for example, you look at the direction that the world is going, you'll see there's some major challenges that we face, environmental and others. So there are all kinds of ways that people can research things, yeah? Okay, so that's two. Thirdly, and this is arguably probably the most important one, you need to choose a topic, an area of study that you are honestly, in your heart of hearts, down inside, interested in. Now, that might sound obvious. You might say, well, Richard, well, obviously, if I'm choosing a topic, I'd be interested in it. Well, let's understand what I mean by interest. So when you do, in my case, I did an MBA, and an MBA, we had a number of projects. You know, so we did have a final project to do, which entailed research. I researched a company in St. Vincent, I think it was, which is a small island in the Eastern Caribbean, for those of us who are not familiar with the area. A particular company in St. Vincent, and I looked at the leadership and historic leadership in that company. And it's an area I'm interested in, you know, the area of leadership. So something I looked at, I gathered data, I did the literature review and all of those. Much smaller though, much smaller. It's a project. It certainly is not a dissertation. And I can't tell you how many pages there were. I don't remember. This is quite a few years ago. Yeah, my last MBA, because I did an MBA prior to that. And yes, I was interested, but that is a different kind of interest. Essentially, at the MBA, you know, I was looking for a project that would satisfy the requirements of the institution, get it done. Interested, yes, but nowhere near the kind of depth of interest that I have in the topic. Excuse me, the topic that I'm researching now. Remember, this has to be something that would sustain your interest for a period of years. It's not a 3-month thing. Remember I said in the last video, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So it has to be a topic that would sustain your interest for a period of years. I ambitiously have said that I will get this done in 2 years. I've had professors say, well, let's see how it goes, you know, so we'll see how it goes. This is May, I started last September, and I can still get it done in 2 years. I'm not in a rush, but I'd like to get it done in 2 years and get it off my plate. I have a book plan coming out of this work, and there's all kinds of work that comes out when you write a book. So there's so many things I'd like to do, and there's only so much time left to get big pieces of work done, you know. So, but it can take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've heard of people taking 10 years to get a PhD done. So, and obviously they're not engaged fully for those 10 years, I doubt they are. But, you know, it has to be something that is meaty enough and significant enough and important enough to you that you would be prepared to stick with it over the long term. This is critical, has to be over the long term. So choosing a topic. Original, solves a problem, discovers something, figures something out, and interesting enough to sustain you. So for me, the coinciding areas of research for my topic of the relationship between behavioral styles and work ethic within the labor force of Trinidad and Tobago are coinciding areas of research: history, sociology, psychology, business, and particularly economics. Let me just see if I left anything out. A little bit of biology, because I had to look at the human genome. Let me see. Those are I said history. Yes. Okay, good. Those are the big ones. Now, each of those requires investigation to set the framework and to see what we're dealing with, look at theories, look at what other people have done. So my wife, who hears a lot about what I'm doing, I will go and talk to her about something that happened, or something I read, or something I learned in my exploration. And by the way, you should check her out. Simply Shelly. She is a digital marketing specialist, and she is phenomenal. She's helping people build businesses digitally, so that's something you should check her out. Just do a search for her, Simply Shelly, and you'll find her. She's also a coach to mainly women. She mainly works with women, so you can check her out on all the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not sure how active she's on YouTube, but definitely Instagram and Facebook. You can find her stuff there, and she is a vocal coach as well. All right, so that's her. But I will go to her and talk to her about things that I'm learning. Yeah, and she would say from time to time, "You should have been a historian." And I go, "Well, I am interested in the historical underpinnings of these concepts or these issues. You should have been a sociologist, a psychologist, or this or that." This is why doctoral candidates and people who complete doctoral work have such a breadth of knowledge. It has nothing to do with how smart they are as such, but out of necessity and, of course, interest, you have to investigate so many coinciding constructs, studies, areas of focus, disciplines, and bring those to bear on your own work. I'll give you, for example, as I read history, I came across this notion of the lazy African. It's junk in terms of this is obviously untrue. So I went in and I found papers on, that criticized and that explained why people came up with this frame or this thinking, this belief, whether it's propaganda or not, that the Africans that were brought here were lazy and so on. There's no evidence of that, obviously not. If you go to a country where people are, or a continent where people have built civilizations and they have agriculture and they've built the pyramids and all these things, and not just in Egypt, but in many parts of Africa. They've sailed the world. If you read Van Sertima, They Came Before Columbus, he presents cogent arguments that suggest that the Africans came to the Americas long before the Europeans. Yeah? So, but I encountered this concept of the lazy African, and I had to investigate that because I'm looking at work ethic. And Africans came to Trinidad and Tobago. They make up 30-something, maybe about 33-34% of the population, Africans. And then you have another similar amount that are Indians. And then in combination, you have another amount, 10% or something like that. So I had to look at that, and it led me to wonder, well, should I be looking at what work was like in Africa before those people were taken as slaves and brought to this country, as an example. So, and I didn't. I decided, okay, I have enough of a historical context that I don't need to look at this, because I thought I was going a little bit too far. But it tells you there are so many pieces that come together, and you need to have sufficient interest to stay with this over the long term. So what should you study? That's totally up to you, obviously. But clearly, you need to find something that is original, something that would solve a problem. Obviously, it's a question, it's a problem, it's a challenge, and it would sustain you over the long term. And the long term here is not 6 months, it's not a year, it's going to be the duration of this program. Whatever that program looks like for you, 2, 3 years, 4 years. Typically, 3 to 4 years is kind of typical, 5, but there are people who go much longer, way into 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So find something that is big enough and important enough and interesting enough to you to keep you focused on it, so that when you find something, you go, wow, this is interesting. I'm amazed. I want to tell somebody about this. And that has happened to me many, many times over the last few months. All right, so finding a topic, very important. Identifying that, very useful. I hope this was useful for you. I'm on a bit of a roll. I think I'll make another one. Let's see how that goes. Another installment in the PhD Chronicles. Again, this is Richard Solomon. Take best care.